So it's my great pleasure now to introduce you to Dr. Roger Carter. Roger has been a stalwart of Edinburgh for many years. He's a luminary in sort of tourism destination work. He's worked for the World Tourism Organization, and he was once the CEO of Edinburgh Marketing, and then Edinburgh Tourist Board. He's been working on developing the action plan around technology and the tourism strategy. And so without further ado, I'll just hand you over to Roger.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you. So we started doing work on this in 2010 for ETAG, and now we've been asked to update that work, so we're in the process of updating the action plan that we developed in 2010. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the process, but also some of the content that's coming through in terms of the new action plan. It builds very much on the work that we did in 2010, but there are some interesting significant differences. There's really three dimensions to the work, and Robin in his introduction has touched on at least two of those. The first, with which we're familiar, all of us, is improving visitor access to information and services on and in Edinburgh. So that's getting the information to people, the opportunity to buy. The second, which Robin has talked about, but also you'll have more presentations later on today, is about enhancing the visitor experience. So it's increasing the richness of the experience in terms of what people learn, in terms of their enjoyment. And that's, I think, really one of the big new frontiers in terms of use of new technology. And the third, which Robin touched on, is helping businesses to achieve greater efficiencies, helping them to grow, helping them to deliver better customer service. Now, this is the work that we did in 2010, and I described that 2 years ago at this conference. So we looked at the trends, both in the technology development and in terms of the market. We did detailed work on the ground, particularly in terms of access to Wi-Fi around the city centre. We undertook quite a lot of interviews with tourism stakeholders. We did a survey of tourism businesses. We did an expert review of all of the sites, the websites, which in one way or another were promoting Edinburgh to consumers. And we did some best practice analysis in destinations elsewhere, and that led on to the 2010 action plan, which I talked about 2 years ago. So what's happened since then? Well, Richie has really covered this. I don't really need to say any more. We've seen huge growth. I mean, a lot of this we anticipated. In fact, we anticipated all of it in 2010, but what's interesting is that it really has happened, and we've seen this huge explosion in the use of smartphones, particularly, and social media related to smartphones. Something which perhaps, I mean, we were certainly talking about it, but we hadn't really seen very much was the geographical application of these services, geographical application of social media, and that has come through quite strongly. That particular example is from Australia, who are one of the leaders in this sort of area. So that's what happened out in the marketplace, and Richie's described all of that very well. Within Edinburgh, a number of really important developments, the Connected Capital Project that Richie is responsible for, the ETAG technology programme, that Robin described, which has, I think, been amazingly successful. When I saw the programme for this year, I thought, that's really, really good. It's one of the best programmes I've seen anywhere. And it's good to know that a lot of you are active, participating, enjoying that programme, and I hope your businesses are really benefiting. One of the major issues we had 2 years ago was that Edinburgh really was not being presented well on the web. Both in terms of the quality of the presentation and fragmentation. So that was really one of our major concerns and one of the major areas of recommendation. Things have improved a lot since then. Visit Scotland has completely redesigned edinburgh.org, and that was a prototype for the redesign, redevelopment of Visit Scotland, and there is more to come there. But the next year for Visit Scotland, and on behalf of Edinburgh, we want to be part of that, is about mobile web. Visit Scotland is going to be putting a lot of time and resource into the development of mobile websites, and we hope that Edinburgh again will be a prototype for what's done across Scotland. Tourism Intelligence Scotland, I suspect most of you are signed up to TIS. Will have seen the new technology guide that was produced online within the last year or so. And then finally, but definitely not least important, is the tourism strategy that Robin referred to, the overall tourism strategy for the city, which was published this time last year, January last year. I'm certainly not going to go into any detail about that, only to say that technology is fundamentally important to the strategy. It underlies it. It's one of the cross-cutting elements that really supports all of the priorities. There are 5 strategic priorities in the strategy, and technology underlies, well, certainly 4 out of the 5. So now what we're doing is updating the 2010 work. So we are building on it. We're not starting again. And perhaps this time being a little bit more focused and trying to identify priorities. So smaller numbers of actions there, and I think we will have priorities within those actions. And really just following up the point I made a moment ago, designing the revised action plan so that it really is supporting the strategy, and we'll see that in general and in specifically. Now, this is the 9-point action plan that is emerging. It's not set in concrete, so we've got opportunities to enhance it. So this is giving you an insight to where we are at the moment, and welcome comments either today or subsequently. And I'm just going to walk you through those very quickly. Timescale on the right. The dark blue is the period of greatest activity. Light blue is either the follow-through on it, because really all of this stuff is going then to be continuing, or in 1 or 2 cases it's the planning work is in light blue. So the first one there, I've really touched on this, getting the integrated approach. We've made a lot of progress, but we need to keep doing that, keep everybody on board, and to have a common architecture for the presentation on the web and on the mobile web. And that's about having good lead sites, good portal sites, but then leading through to all of the content that the major stakeholders of Edinburgh have to offer. So making it easy for visitors to come down and to access a lot of really good content about Edinburgh. And I come back to that in relation to point 3. The second point, we've had quite a lot of discussion about the extent to which the stakeholders, particularly the major players in Edinburgh, would like to work together in e-marketing and perhaps particularly in social media. The easy bit was to, well, maybe not that easy, but certainly easier bit was getting agreement on exchanging intelligence that would help everybody to understand what's going on. So in other words, to some extent, the application within Edinburgh of the sorts of trends that Richie was talking about nationally. But we've also, I think, recognised that particularly where we want to do something interesting and innovating, it will be good if people can be working together on the leading edge, hopefully leading edge rather than bleeding edge activity. The third point, which I mentioned in relation to 1 also, is access to rich content. Within the vaults of major organisations in Edinburgh, there's a huge amount of really good content that would potentially be of interest to visitors, particularly those who have been before and want to know more. They want to drill down to a level of greater depth. So there's a lot of content there, some of it digitised, some of it not. Even where it's digitised, it's not necessarily easy to get access to it. So the task there is firstly to just look at the feasibility of getting access to all of this wonderful content, and then making it available to end customers, but also to the industry for their use in the promotion of their businesses. Fourth point, the next 2 points really are closely related. The first is saying, well, it's all very well to have good electronic services, information services in Edinburgh, but how do visitors find out about it? So it's saying at point of arrival, we need to let people know what's available in terms of web, mobile web, apps, and so on. And the second point here, or number 5, is saying, wouldn't it be good if our information centres, particularly the one at Waverley, can really be a showcase for new technology? One has to recognise there is a balance between technology, between new distribution through new media and traditional media, and that balance is very important and is going to evolve over time. But let's be using technology to the full, which, it has to be said, in the past we have not been at the information centres. And the information centres should be, in a sense, the source of information and access to the electronic services for visitors. The 6th one is really right in Rich's area. It is about seamless access to free or low-cost high bandwidth Wi-Fi, particularly in the city centre. It is improving, as Rich has said, connectivity. Sorry, I should be taking you down here. Connectivity is good, but there's a lot of room for improvement. The 7th point is about high-quality intelligence, training and advice for the tourism community. So ETAG has made great progress on this, very well-attended programs, as we've been saying, and I think really there is a demand for more of the same, and as Robin said, moving over onto the technology, onto the mobile side of things even more than in the past. And then this is the point about enhancing the quality of the visitor experience. This is the second priority within the overall Edinburgh 2020, the tourism strategy, and we want really to look at everything that we can do in that respect. So there's going to be more discussion about how technology can support that priority within the strategy. And then finally, there's the use of technology in relation to business tourism. Business tourism is a huge consumer of new technology, and that will increase. And one of the priorities in the strategy was that Edinburgh's, as a conference destination, should really be at the world-class level. And the use of new technology is going to be a critical part of that. So that's really how different partners, hotels, conference centre, and the conference organisation can share information and really make the conference work successfully by the use of new technology. The timescales there. So the first one, a lot of work to be done very soon. Stakeholders working together, that can start immediately. Well, it's already there to some extent. Blogmanay is an example, and we hope there will be more of that, and certainly exchange of intelligence can be started very quickly. Number 3, access to rich media content. There's feasibility work to be done initially, and then we hope that can happen over the latter part of this period. Point of arrival, that can be done very quickly. Information centres as a showcase, that will take a little while to set up. Seamless access, this is the timescale for the programme that Rich is talking about. Well, that hopefully will come in very strongly, 2015 beyond. High quality intelligence, that's happening already, and that will continue. Enhancing the quality of visitor experience, we need to do some thinking, some developmental work on that. I think that realistically will come in either 2014 or 2015. And then the business tourism technology, that's not an area where we've done a lot of work yet. We're still working on the specific elements of that. That will come in later in the programme. But I think we can do some really good stuff there in order to position Edinburgh as a world-class business tourism destination. So now over to you. We'd welcome some interaction and some comments from you generally, but specifically we have some questions here. The first, I think it's 3 questions, are for the tourism businesses within the audience. You will find under your chair you have 2 cards. This is real modern technology in use. So this is old technology, but it is cheap. So there we are. Are you willing to share intelligence arising from your e-marketing activity? And then an example, the metrics on the types of devices people use to access your website or your websites. This is one of the areas where there's been huge change. It's some of the stats that I found most interesting. The access to websites. Edinburgh Castle, for example, has seen massive growth in terms of access both from smartphone and from tablets. So it's really helpful to know what's happening. So tourism businesses, those of you who are willing to share, will you please show your green cards? Okay, that's lots of you. You're good people. Thank you. And the red people, the bad people? There are none of you. Sorry, I shouldn't joke like that because I don't want to bias it. You're not bad people if you don't want to share information. You're probably just being very commercially sensible. Is there anybody who is cautious about that? One. Okay, that's fine. Good. Two. Thank you. Sorry for making fun on that point. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Are you interested in participating in joint e-marketing and I think particularly social media activity? We're using Blogman as an example because I think a lot of you will have heard about that at the main ETAG conference last month. And it's just an example of the sorts of things that could be done for the city on a partnership basis. So again, for the tourism businesses, and I think those who are sort of potentially wanting to be very active, are you willing to participate in this? Green cards, please. Again, lots of green cards. Thank you very much. And the red cards, those who would be cautious. Okay, thank you. And then, are you interested in learning more about the ways that superfast broadband can benefit your business? So all the sorts of stuff that Richie was talking about that I've touched on, it opens up huge new opportunities, and there is going to be a program of work to assist, but we really want to just understand, which of you really want to understand how it can help you through participation in training courses and then advice on more of a one-to-one basis from business advisors. So who of you would be interested? Green cards in relation to the training courses. Okay, a very high proportion of you. Who's not interested in training courses? Again, perfectly legitimate if you're not. Okay, relatively small proportion. And then through advice on a one-to-one basis. How many of you would like to take up that sort of offer? Okay, not so many, and that's fine because it's more expensive, of course, to do that. Also, I noticed that some of those who weren't so interested in the training are interested in the one-to-one, and I totally understand that. And then for the technology suppliers, one of the issues we've looked at is, and this was in the original program, and we're sort of taking it through in a slightly different way, setting up a blog that's available to the industry, but really we need input from technology suppliers contributing to provide interesting material for tourism businesses about tourism trends and applications. So amongst the technology suppliers here, how many would be interested and willing to do that? I guess that's most of you. Can I see a red cards just to see whether there are a lot of you here who aren't really so much? Okay, so majority are. Thank you. So that, all right, next steps very quickly. Revising the action plan following further consultations, any input we get today, the input we've already had. Delivery of the final action plan report by the end of this month now. And the formalisation of Tourism Technology Working Group to oversee the delivery of the action plan and to help organise cooperative or joint activities, intelligence and so on. So thank you very much indeed.